the blocking of the Biden transition. Part of it is simply Donald Trump's ego and his desire to build a grievance amongst his followers so that whatever his next project is, he will have that energized base. For Republicans in the Senate, part of that is to build grievance so that they turn out for a Georgian special election. Another part of it, I think, though, is by keeping the Biden transition team way on the outside, it means that the current Trump administration, to be clear, Republican administration, is able to go about getting involved in all sorts of mischief without having to dedicate any of their resources to a transition.
Exactly.
And without providing any transparency for that transition. So one of the things you get is this burrowing. Tell us about this John Ellis guy.
Yeah. So if you guys recall, on the show the other day, we talked about John McEntee, who's this 30-year-old former college quarterback famous for trick shots on YouTube, who Trump has, for some reason, pushed up the ranks in his administration. And his sole job right now is to put Trump appointees, political appointees, in basically traditionally civilian positions.
Civil service
positions, so that it'll make it a lot harder for Joe Biden and his administration to take out these far-right crazies when Biden does finally assume office. And so one of those people is Ellis, who used to his first name is escaping me right now, John Ellis, who used to be the chief of staff for Devin Nunes, chief counsel. And it's not a Senate confirmed role. This guy is far right, was a part of encouraging the Trump administration to put all that Ukrainian malfeasance on secret servers. And so basically what this 30-year-old college quarterback is doing, which is what I like to refer to him as because it's so absurd, is, as has been written about, burrowing these political appointees in civilian positions, providing them with civil service protections.
Exactly.
So that Biden and his ilk cannot get rid of them.
And here is the other scary part of this. This is not, I mean, there's sort of like the Ellis story, placing him at counsel in the NSA against the wishes of the head of the NSA. Now, it's conceivable after the fact that if the Biden administration gets in, they can move him to a different civil service position. But this conversion of political appointees to civil service workers in the government take an oath to the Constitution. They take an oath to be bipartisan. Usually these are people who work up through the ranks. They are career bureaucrats in the best sense of the word. They care about their work. They don't care who the president is. They do their job to make the government function. Places like the CDC used to be of this ilk.
Right. Well, I mean, Sally Yates was a good example of someone who kind of rose up and now is more in this political realm, but that was because Trump put her there. But like on a macro level, like Bill Barr is an example of somebody who's completely, I mean, I know he's a political appointment, but all the decisions he's made has politicized the DOJ in the exact way that they're doing on the down low in every other area of the government.
Now, back 3 weeks ago now, this story got buried because of the impending election. Apparently that distracted a lot of people. And there was a Trump appointed head of a key advisory council on the civil service who was himself a longtime civil servant, but had been appointed to this advisory board. He resigned. And he resigned over an executive order that Donald Trump issued. And this is how the Washington Post characterized that order. It was an executive order to redesignate career employees in, quote, confidential policy determining, policy making, and policy advocating positions as falling under rules that primarily apply to political appointees. Such accepted service positions do not require competition in hiring or even public notice that a position is available, do not allow for union representation, do not allow for appeals or of disciplinary action, including firing. Under the order, agencies are to conduct initial review within 3 months and a full review within 7 months of such positions. The OPM would then change their status, affecting both current and future employees. It's uncertain. So the bottom line is, it is looking to replace apolitical experts with political appointees.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the scary part too. The first deadline of that review happens just before Inauguration Day in January. So there is some speculation. Certainly, this longtime Republican, this guy, Ronald Sanders, felt like this was a bad idea, at the very least. You never see people resign from the U.S. government, or to the extent that they do, you never hear about it, because there's just, I don't know, I
mean, the big resignation was the official under Barr who resigned after he was trying to instruct them to look into voting cases. I mean, we're seeing the fact that they're looting on their way out, or at least, changing the wiring and the electricity so it shocks you when you turn on a light in the living room, right? Like, that's what they're doing on their way out.
This is what Sanders had to write after he resigned from the Federal Salary Council. The order, and it could affect tens of thousands or more career positions that are involved in making or carrying out policy, quote, is nothing more than a smokescreen for what is clearly an attempt to require the political loyalty of those who advise the president, or failing that, to enable their removal with little, if any, due process. In other words, they want to make it possible to remove a lot of these civil servants and replace them with political appointees. At the very least, what this is going to do is it's going to drain resources from a Biden administration on day one. And it's going to make it difficult for them to actually do anything, because basically it's like, you want to come in and, remodel the house. Well, first you're going to have to fix the plumbing, which we blew up.
Right.
Then you're going to have to fix the wiring, which we all cut. Then you're going to have to fix the sewers because we clogged them. I mean, that's basically what's going on here with the Trump administration. And it's not, the story that we hear traditionally by the media is that this is about Donald Trump's hurt ego, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
No doubt. But this has been a consistent problem with both the media coverage and, I think, even to a larger extent, the Democrats, because it is very hard to expect the media to go further than the supposed opposition party in pointing this type of stuff out.
Right.
They should. The media should. But, human nature is what it is. And the Democrats, you would imagine, would be the ones who are most vocal about this. And this is an ongoing theme with the Democrats that we saw, where the Democrats do not signal and do not direct people's attention to where the real problem is. This is not about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not sitting there going like, I want my legacy to be that I was able to get rid of career bureaucrats in our government as I leave.
Right.
That's not what Donald Trump is worried about, his legacy. This is a project by Republican operatives.
Yeah. Well, they're the ones that say that they care so much or they hate government bureaucracy so much. They're literally gumming up the works, the bureaucratic works, in order to make government less functional on a bureaucratic level, because it's going to be so messed up once Biden enters.
Indeed. And these will have long-term implications. I've referred to this in the past, but 4 years ago, right around now, I think it was, we had Sam Bagenstos on, who served in the Department of Justice. He ran for Michigan State Supreme Court, I think it was last year, did not win. But he is a law professor, I think, at the University of Michigan. He was in the Justice Department under the Clinton administration, and then came back and was in the Justice Department under the Obama administration. So he saw what happened to the Department of Justice in 8 years without these type of shenanigans. And he said it took 2 years or 3 years just to be able to attract personnel back into these departments, because all the people who genuinely cared about this stuff were basically given a message over the course of 8 years, like, you have no place here. And so Democrats really need to point this stuff out. It is not just about Donald Trump doesn't want to leave because he doesn't want to acknowledge a transition because of his hurt feelings. There's a lot of stuff going on in the executive branch right now. There's a story about the Arctic Reserve, and this is just nuts. This was in the Washington Post, I think it was today, or the New York Times, Washington Post. The Trump administration is asking oil and gas firms to pick spots where they want to drill in Alaska's Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. And they want them to do it now so they can auction them off before Biden gets in. There's a call for nominations. It is being published today in the Federal Register. There is, it's basically saying, identify where you want to bid on about 1.6 million acres of coastal plain. This is a sale that the Interior Department wants to essentially an auction to have
it's
before
a fire
Biden takes.
Sale.
It's a fire sale.
And then while setting the planet on fire as well, coincidentally.
Well, here's the unbelievable thing about it. The Post writes, it's unclear how much appetite there is in the oil and gas industry for drilling in the refuge, given the lack of infrastructure there, the public backlash that a company that could come forward. And basically, look, everyone knows that oil and gas is not a business for the future. The question is just like, what's the timeline? It's conceivable, though, you may have smaller companies come in, bid on this stuff just as a way of selling it back to the U.S.
Yeah.
Because claiming that they're going to go in there. The government also plans to auction off oil and gas rights to more than 383,000 acres of federal land in the lower 48 states in the next 2 months. I mean, this is a huge giveaway of all of our property, of the commons. The Energy Department is looking to weaken energy efficiency requirements for shower heads.
Well, I mean, it dovetails with the light bulb thing that Trump did. What was that, 2017, really early on? But
this was the light bulb thing. I can tell you this right now. During the Obama years, there were 4 or 5 years of constant pounding about the light bulb requirements.
And it actually was effective in terms of reducing our output.
It was incredibly effective in terms of reducing the output. And the other thing that happens when you have companies are required to do these type of efficiencies, you get better products.
Right. Well, for the viewers who didn't know, like back in, I think maybe it was 2017, Trump undid all of Obama's light bulb efficiency requirements, which were actually very effective in reducing our carbon footprint just immediately. It was a part of everything he undid as soon as he got in. Just boom, boom, boom.
In that instance, the light bulb companies were like, well, we're not going to switch back because we have no reason to. We are making more efficient light bulbs. They're actually better. We now have like the ability to like change their color. Like we have smart bulbs, the LED technology that they developed in a expedited fashion because of these requirements. We saw it also with the CAFE standards that he tried to reverse. And California was like, well, we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And the car companies were like, we don't want you to do it because we actually feel more comfortable knowing that 5, 10, 15, 20 years out, we need to make far more efficient cars.
So it's not just an ungoverning. It's not just a deregulating. It's also a looting, which I feel like sometimes the media misses, right? Like it's not just getting rid of regulations to be this old school kind of conservative who says, yeah, libertarian, let the builders build, do whatever the hell they want, whatever, right? Like it's also so his friends and him can get rich quick, really quick, before it all dries up.
Absolutely. And we're also seeing things like the administration pressing ahead with other moves to expand energy development and scale back federal environmental rules. It aims to finalize a plan to open up a vast majority of the National Petroleum Reserve Alaska drilling to adopt a narrower definition of what constitutes a critical habitat for endangered species, and when companies are liable for killing migratory birds. I mean, they're going on a spree here, and Democrats need to call this stuff out, because we get reporting like this, but it's not going to, this is not a headline story for people, but it is important for Democrats. When we talk about why they lost down ballot, right? It is because, and Joe Biden, I think, ran the perfect, frankly, Joe Biden campaign.
Right. And
that was, I don't necessarily have a whole lot of a vision to offer. I don't necessarily. I mean, he has some good proposals, some that are not so great, but it's pretty banal stuff.
But vision is different than,
yes,
policy, throw this in the wall, whatever.
He was offering people a choice. This is a referendum. Do you want Donald Trump or not? I am a non-offensive, not me personally, but Joe Biden is saying I'm a non-offensive replacement for Donald Trump. And, I'm sure there were people who were like, I've always been a Joe Biden fan. For years, I followed all his work when he, put the bankruptcy bill and wouldn't let people discharge their obligations in a way a corporation could. I mean, there could be people out there who are like that. Like, I really appreciated the fact that he always had the credit card companies' backs.
Yeah,
that's the thing I like about it.
It's more just cultural. Always BFFs with Obama, always kind of folksy, always wears aviators.